My name's Gabriel. I'm from the Lil'wat Nation and Stratton Territory. I got into emergency management or emergency preparedness just from doing volunteer work throughout my community. Um, there comes times when we need volunteers to do sandbagging or cooking or delivering food to those who are working. I'm an active member of my volunteer fire department in my community. I'm going on 8 years this year. I'm also a certified swift water rescue technician. I am a certified occupational first aid level 3 attendant. I'm also a confined space rescue tech certified. And I just recently joined Lil'wat Nation Emergency Management Response Team. I was asked to join the response team because of my volunteerism. Like I said, I do a lot of work in my community on volunteer hours. So I was asked to join the response team to give input because I know a lot of what happens and how it should happen. Not that I know how it's done properly, but I do my best to get things done. I worked at Hitchcock Community School for 10 years, and last year I did a program called Preparing Our Homes, and through that we are able to develop a curriculum for emergency management, preparing our homes. So I'm doing a curriculum development program with 9 students and an assistant. We are just over halfway of doing the program. We've touched base on getting the students to identify hazards, know the difference between risks and hazards. We have been doing more seat work than I think is necessary. I'd like to do a lot more hands-on work. Just previously we did a fire prevention boot camp with First Nations Emergency Services Society, and with that we put the kids through first aid class where they got certified for first aid and how to use artificial external defibrillator. Yeah, so they got to know that. One day we brought in an actual ambulance from the BC Ambulance Service, and the students got to get an overview of that. What to wear on the ambulance, how things work on the ambulance, and they got to ask questions. They got to play with stretchers and stair stretcher. And then 2 days following, we did a firefighting boot camp, and we used our local fire department for a training hall. Finesse brought in turnout gear for all the students. I had 18 students altogether in that program. Training on how to use the different fire extinguishers, going from foam extinguishers to powder extinguishers to water extinguishers. And we had Pemberton Fire Department brought in their ladder truck, and we got to get an overview of that. That part was really interesting because the students got to see first aid from a fire department right there, as a community member had collapsed and was having problems. So Pemberton Fire Rescue and myself, along with another firefighter who has her level 3 first aid, went to help that community member, and the kids were right there asking questions if they had any questions to ask. That made me really happy that they got to see that right in front of their eyes, knowing that anything can happen at any time and you just need to be prepared for whatever happens. My program, I've also brought in a herbologist to come and talk to the students about plants that are edible right in our surrounding community that don't need a lot of preparation. And then she touched base on plants that have medicinal value in our surrounding area and what little preparation they need if needed. And then I had our community safety officer come in and give the students a brief overview of what his job is within the community, going from safety within all our band buildings, our band hall, our gas station, our local store, the school, our local health center, and he is also a member of our volunteer fire department, so he's done a lot of work with us. He's helping us get trained to become official certified volunteer firefighters. If things aren't done properly within our band buildings, and by that I mean logistics of a small incident, if things aren't written down or whatever, there needs to be a paper trail for incidental purposes. And in the near future, I'm going to have a couple of gentlemen come in and talk about the history of emergency preparedness from our community, from the elders' point of view. If an example I was given, if there's something happening in our community that could affect the communities below us, they would send a foot runner and say, this is what's happening, and we figure this is how long you guys have in order to avoid this disaster as well. So that's one thing I'm really looking forward to. And just during this emergency preparedness workshop in this past week, I have a couple more ideas that I will use with my students, because I only have 10 classes left with them, so I'm going to be doing a lot more hands-on work with them. They have been doing a lot of work and they're doing really well, so some more hands-on stuff with how they want to learn, or a better way for me to teach them learn the materials that I want them to learn. In my community, when anything happens, funerals, gatherings, community gatherings, there's a lot of volunteer cooks and I'm one of them. I like to spend a lot of my time in the kitchen. And with my emergency preparedness class, we were talking about getting grab-and-go bags, what you need or what kind of food was needed in there. And we made lists of foods that you could put in there. And one thing that was mentioned was fruit leather, or what they called fruit roll-ups. So I wanted the students to just realize how easy it was in order to make them. Not much ingredients were needed, so we collected the ingredients and I did it in 2 groups. We made the fruit leather on one day and the kids got to eat it the next day, and they really enjoyed that. And after doing that, they decided they wanted to try and, well, not try and make, but they're going to make beef jerky or a kind of jerky of their choosing. So that's going to be one thing, because we talked about food preservation and how it'll help in our community if any disaster was to happen in our community. In our community, when things happen, you can really notice a difference in feelings of heaviness, of some people not wanting to be around others. But in my community, we host a drumming night once a month we have drumming, and we have a little potluck feast. People bring snacks or whatever. For 3 hours of the night, we'll just drum and sing and dance for those who need to come and have some kind of healing done. I really enjoyed this week. I got to meet a whole group of new people. Just an example, like I did my confined space rescue certification, and there's myself and one other guy from home who did that certification. And we said, we told the rest of our group, if you ever need anything, just call us and we'll see if we can all band together and help you if anything. So with this group, I feel we have a really strong connection. We've given a lot of input and a lot of suggestions on how to better prepare your community for anything. And what I really am going to take back to my community is that communication is one of the strongest things that needs to happen. Communication and listening. So not only from the volunteers, but to any outside organizations that come into our community to help, as well as our chief and council. So communication and listening is the key focus to anything.